Hello and welcome to the fourth webinar of the core essential videos. This is the last webinar, but it is a very important one. We're looking at core and posture. My name's Juliette Fritchie and I'll be taking you through it. This is not meant to be a hugely comprehensive guide to core muscles and postural muscles and their function. It's just meant to give you a bit of an overview, because there are people from all sorts of health professions here, just so that we're on the same page when it comes to what are core muscles, what are postural muscles, and how they are used, and how activator poles can be used to improve your posture and your core in this particular video. So let's start with the core muscles. These are deep and local muscles, and they consist of your transversus abdominis, which is transversely around the front of your abdomen, your multifidus, which is at the back, your pelvic floor, and your diaphragm. So together these create something like a can. If you've got a can of vegetables, if you imagine that, your transverse abdominis and your multifidus are around the can. Your pelvic floor is at the bottom, and your diaphragm is at the top. So they're all working to hold all those internal structures in place. Let's go through them one by one. This is your transversus abdominis, and it's the major muscle responsible for core stabilization. Runs transversely around your abdomen and creates that corset-like effect when contracted. So this is the muscle that we often, when we're working with patients, you'll say to them, pull in your belly button, or pull in your waist, draw in your waist as if you have a belt that's tightening around your waist. That is the muscle that is being contracted when they're doing that. Your multifidus is a number of muscles. They're short muscles, and they run from one transverse process to the next spinous process. So they're diagonal muscles. And what they do is they produce small, fine-tuning postural movements, and they're continually working just to adjust the body as it changes position. You have your pelvic floor. I haven't talked much about the diaphragm, but just to add a little bit about the pelvic floor, this one will work in conjunction with your transversus abdominis and your multifidus. So here is the function of these muscles. They are not power muscles. They're designed to be working all of the time when you're in upright positions, or let's say non-resting positions. And they work at a low level of intensity in usual postures like standing, walking, twisting, bending, anything like that. They keep the spine in a nice upright position to stabilize the body's structures, and they do not produce gross movement of the trunk or extremities. So these are the muscles that when you're working with people and you want to work your core muscles, you want to keep the trunk very still as you're moving extremities. So you're using those muscles to keep the trunk still while you're doing other things with your upper or lower limbs. So let's move on to posture and your postural muscles. Core muscles are at work when you are in a good posture. And a good posture is the attitude which is assumed by body parts to maintain stability and balance with minimum of effort and the least strain during supportive and non-supportive positions. So here's a perfect example of somebody with good posture. Now, if you'll notice there, her neck is retracted nicely. Her shoulders are back. So although her elbows are bent slightly so that her hands are forward, but actually if you drew a line down her upper arm, you would find that the line actually goes behind her hip joint. So that is perfect posture. Now, the postural muscles consist of your deep neck flexors. These are muscles that move joints of your body. So they're your deep neck flexors, which cause retraction of your neck. They're your middle back muscles, your lower middle trapezius, rhomboids, serratus anterior. And when those are working nicely, your shoulders are in a nice neutral position. Your abdominal muscles, so your obliques and your rectus abdominis, and they're shallower than your transversus abdominis muscles. And your hip extensors, knee extensors to some extent as well. So they're your gluteal. So these are all quite large muscles that produce movement. So this is what happens when you, as you get older, especially you see this in older adults, their postural muscles weaken and their posture changes as a result. So what I'm going to do now is to share a video of what happens to how you can use those activators to get people back into a nice posture, neutral posture, and allow all their muscles to work efficiently. So here we have a person with a nice normal posture, and she's going to gradually loosen all her postural muscles. So you will see there, she's retracted, she's poked her neck just a little bit. She's allowed her upper back muscles to loosen and relax. And so she comes forward, she ends up in a slightly kyphotic position. Her shoulders roll forward, her arms come forward, and her tummy muscles weaken. Her hips are slightly flexed, her knees are slightly flexed. That happens so often with older adults. So you may want to grab your poles at this stage and just have a go at getting into that posture. So neck just poked a little bit, protracted a little bit, relax your shoulders, relax your upper back, and you'll automatically relax your tummy muscles. And then slightly bend your hips and your knees. And that is the position that so many of our clients end up in. So let's go on from here. In that position, we give them some poles, and she rests her hands on the outside of the shelf of the core grip handle. So the instruction then that I give people is push down on the handle and come up. And you'll see what happens when they do that. Pushing down, everything comes up. You're giving everything a little bit of support by using your arms, and you immediately get yourself into this nice neutral posture. So hips are extended, hips are in neutral, which means when they walk, instead of going from flexion to neutral, they're going from neutral to extension, and you're forcing people to go into that extended position when they're pushing off. Upper back muscles are being used. Your shoulders are back and your neck is retracted. So that is what a really nice thing to do just when you're working with clients who have really poor posture, and just to get them into that position is an exercise in itself. And you can use that not necessarily to when you're walking, but just when you're working with them in standing. So I'm going to leave it there and say thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next module.